Hello everyone, welcome to Radically Loved Radio. I wanted to create a place where people can go to get inspired, get motivated, or find some clarity and get tools to create a radically loved life. I will do my best to provide information on a variety of subjects, including yoga, holistic health, life coaching, spirituality, meditation, and overall mindful living. Each episode will bring you some of the world's best spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, yoga teachers, coaches, along with some of my closest friends, and we will talk about their life experiences and journeys to create something more out of their lives and how they continue to grow to make that happen. Hey guys, Rosie here. I just want to say I am so grateful that you're listening. We are just getting a massive amount of response on this podcast, and I am so grateful that you're a part of this radically loved community, that you're enjoying the content and that you're enjoying all the guests and that you're still here and you're still working on yourself and your journey and your path. And I pray that you've received some tools listening to the guests or listening to any of my ideas or topics on meditation or yoga and how these tools can help you create a life of purpose. To continue to help us give you the best content, you can subscribe to this podcast, and most of the time you can just do it from your phone, from iTunes. Click subscribe and write a review. This really helps us continue this path and this journey, and we love doing it so much. And again, I'm so grateful that you're here. Let us know what you thought. Thanks for listening. 1 cup of tea is all it's going to take to completely transform your perception of what premium tea should be. For those of you who are tea lovers like me, I'm so excited to announce my partnership with Rishi Tea for this amazing giveaway. Rishi Tea is going to give away an entire Matcha Essentials kit. All you have to do is go on Instagram, tag me, Rishi Tea, and the hashtag Radically Loved Rishi for your chance to win an entire Matcha Essentials tea set, which those of you that know me know that this is like the ultimate gift. So for those of you that are interested, go on Instagram now, snap a picture of what your tea ritual looks like, and get ready to experience the best tea you've ever tried in your life. Rishi Tea is my ultimate favorite. I cannot wait to share this experience with you. Shawn Stevenson is considered to be one of the most talented nutritionists in the country. His mission is to help you feel great and find fulfillment in your life and do it in the most healthiest way possible. He has a very inspiring story. He's somebody that I've been listening to for a long time. He's so rich with insight and information, and I feel so honored to have had him as a guest on this podcast. For the people that don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about your story, your background, and how you got to be where you are?
Okay, sure. I'll do the short version. My childhood was very interesting. I grew up the first part of my life up until around age 6. The majority living with my grandmother. And it was a very stable place, full of love, attention, maybe even too much attention with her letting me eat whatever I wanted to eat. And, very great focus on education. And I remember, her sitting with me and learning how to write and to do my letters. And I just fell in love with it. And yeah, it was very structured, stable place. And then from there, moving with this is my grandmother's place. So my mother's very young when she had me, and moving with my mother full time. When I went into 3rd grade, it was a big culture shock. In the inner city, a lot of fights, a lot of abuse, a lot of violence, and this was just what I'm talking about. Was just within my household, not just around me in the community. And so, that's why I grew up in those conditions. But what's so interesting is that, studying this stuff for 15 years now, kids up until around the age where I was at when I changed locations, were in a lot more of a theta state mentally. Your brainwaves are more in a theta state, which is very impressionable. It's kind of sort of like a hypnotic trance in a way. You assimilate so much. And so having those really early years, being around such a stable, loving environment really affected me differently than I would see. I have a younger brother and sister who were there when I moved in with my mother, and seeing the difference in our characters today. I love them to pieces, but they definitely have they're definitely more hardened, and it was more difficult for them to make some adjustments to move beyond our environment in our past. But they're working on it even today, and I'm very proud of them and the growth that they've had. But it's kind of paving the way and even showing it's possible. So fast forward the story. Um, High school, I'm looking at my examples for even making it are athletes, entertainment. That's kind of the model that I have, and I don't really have any other examples. So I'm like, I'm going to play a sport, and I was definitely on my way to being, on that track. And I ran a 4.5 40-yard dash when I was just 15 years old. For people who know about like the NFL and stuff like that, basically this is like NFL time for like running backs and things
Right.
like that. And so things were looking good, but I get diagnosed with this very devastating bone disease,
Mm-hmm.
spinal condition called degenerative disc disease, degenerative spinal disease. And so that really sidelines my aspirations, and this diagnosis doesn't come until, over a dozen injuries. And I finally get this diagnosis when I'm 20. And my world really spiraled downward from there very quickly. Uh, Being in this chronic pain, being in literally the pain was so bad that I was in fear of moving, right? So
Mm.
because I get this sciatic nerve pain, and to give people an example, um, if you think about pain on a level from 1 to 10 on a scale, 10 being like you cannot tolerate it, you just want to die. I would get this sciatic nerve pain that went to a 10, but
Wow.
it only happened for a split second. It was like half a second, but it was so harsh and so painful that it would make me physically jerk back. Like it was the craziest thing. I would just imagine myself how I must have looked, and so I was very embarrassed, and I tried to make sure that nobody ever saw that.
Mm.
So I would wait till people left the class. I was in college at the time, fortunately, and I would wait till everybody left the class before I leave and that kind of thing. So spoiler alert, good news happens. The story turns out pretty good. And this was after a couple of years of just trying to figure this stuff out. And, I really, what it boils down to was my physician at the time told me that this was an incurable condition. There was nothing I could do about it,
Yeah.
which is negligent, very, very negligent. And I've been talking about this, and I was actually just talking with a wonderful physician yesterday. She's a New York Times bestselling author, all that good stuff. She's helped tens of thousands of people, in the fact that our healthcare practitioners, we need more training in compassion, not just empathy but compassion.
Mm.
Empathy. There's a difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion.
Mm.
Sympathy is like I I I feel sorry for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy is I feel sorry for you, which is great because there's an acknowledgement. Empathy is I feel for you,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel how you feel. And that is an evolution in thinking and connection. But if two people are feeling terrible and depressed, it's very difficult to find a way out.
Yeah.
Compassion is a place where I understand how you feel. I acknowledge how you feel, but I don't feel that way. How can I serve you? How can I help make this better? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need more compassion taught in in the medical training because it's a huge tool. A physician's words can literally function as something called a placebo effect or a nocebo effect. A placebo effect is 33% effective across the board on average for clinical trials. Some placebos are even 80% plus effective. Some placebo trials for medications related to depression, for example. And it's nothing more than a sugar pill, a sham treatment, because of the power of our minds. And a nocebo effect is when you give somebody a negative injunction. You tell them something bad is going to happen or this can't get better. And you proceed to have them to fall to pieces. So that's what could happen to me. And it did. I gained a bunch of weight, about, 40 to 50 pounds and this chronic pain. I was on all these medications. But all of that changed when I woke up and I decided to actually get well. And I don't want people to miss that because most people never do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like I'll see what happens. I'll give it the old college try. I wish that this would work, but it's very passive, right? When you make a real decision to actually do something, that is the end of the story. There's nothing else except that thing. This is what I decided.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to get well, and I shifted my course of study over to everything regarding the human body, physiology, anatomy, biology, kinesiology, and business. I initially went to school pre-med, then I moved to business slash marketing. And so I still had quite a few classes in that, but then I moved everything over to health. But I got to tell people, like, less than half of a percent of what I know today, and the millions of people who've been influenced by my work at this point, has come from my university classes. So I want people to understand that. Not to say that college is invaluable or that certain universities and classes are not valuable, just the way that I was taught then. And so, but I wanted to get that experience. I thought that would help me in my career because once I got better, which I completely reversed the degeneration. My two herniated discs that was causing all the pain that I've been experiencing retracted and healed on their own. And, that was really the birthing of my career because I didn't just look like somebody who lost weight. I looked like a person who was radiantly healthy
Mm-hmm.
from somebody who was like a shell of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And people ask me, how did I do it? And can I help them? And I shifted all my work and my energy in life into finding a way to serve other people who would also receive that diagnosis that this can be done.
Yeah, I mean, God, you said so much. There's so many questions in that, just dialing it back a little bit from the moment where you said you made a decision and just our ability to make change in our life. And I know you're really big on transformation and making those decisions. So for you, I mean, when you work with people now, and again, this story, I mean, it's very powerful and you healed yourself and you essentially transformed your life and now you're able to work with other people and help them transform theirs. What do you think the most important thing is that needs to happen in order for us to have that moment of clarity where we need to have that change happen?
Wow, that's such a great question. There's two parts. Number one is the reality setting, all right, which I don't really want. I don't like it when I hear somebody tell another human being to be realistic. All right, so I have to make that disclosure,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality setting is that for that condition to arise, for somebody to actually put themselves in a place where they make the decision, the reality is most times it's rock bottom. Like things have to be so bad that you're forced to make a choice. And that rock bottom, funny enough, comes in many different forms and fashions. And it can happen multiple times in your life in different areas of your life. But a rock bottom is a great place because, of course, you hear that you can only go up from there for sure. But it's an emotional opening, right? This is like a place where you're open to change. And you would think that we'd be more open to change just to have a great life, but we're unknowingly or unconsciously closed minded in changing from our comforts and changing from our habitual way of being. And that's kind of human nature in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But we have another setting. And so this is outside of the reality complex, which is how we have the world that we have today. People have gone outside of the comfort zone. They've gone outside of our basic human tendency because we're a more evolved creature. We have this prefrontal cortex and this ability to see beyond what is and to create, you know, um, literally out of nothing. We can create this amazing phone or computer out of an idea. Like this just came from somebody's head, and gathering the resources to do that because people aren't buying into that. So with the reality setting, I would say to embrace the hard times. When you get hit with that bad news or you find yourself in a bad spot, you have to reverse the template on that and to see the great opportunity that's there. So often though we're inundated with when these bad things happen, we just kind of stay there and we wallow in it and we look for pity
Mm-hmm.
instead of really kind of getting back, hitting the reset button and understanding that there's something in this for me. If people are listening to this type of show right now, you already have a tendency towards this choice. And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's from Albert Einstein. It said that the most important decision that we make fundamentally as human beings is whether we live in a friendly or a hostile universe.
Mm.
And if you can really, and everybody listening is probably already shifted towards it slightly, at least, that we live in a friendly universe that's conspiring for your good. And but the thing is, even if you don't believe in any of that stuff, and me studying quantum physics and like what is really going on when we make a decision like this or start talking about things like that, this is still you. It's still your perception, because you and I could be walking down the street and you have the universe is against you perspective in life, and I have the universe is for me perspective, and we can see, somebody coming up to us asking us for some kind of a favor or to for directions or something, and you might automatically think that this is a threat, right? This is somebody who is potentially going to try to rob me and all this stuff, but not saying that that's not a possibility. But you're going to be looking for problems, and you're more likely to find them more often because that's what you're scanning and looking for. And that has to do with the reticular activating system in your brain, reticular cortex. And so for me, it might be, this person is, to show compassion. They're maybe lost. They're trying to find how to get to their child's recital or whatever the case might be. Oh, and come to find out, he's actually, Oprah's personal assistant or something. It's just like, seeing it through a more positive perspective, you open yourself up to more positive engagement and positive relationships and interactions. So I hope all that makes sense. And the point to kind of really put a bow on this, with the reality setting where rock bottom challenges are a great opportunity for us to ask questions. What is this trying to teach me? What is this situation that I'm in, or this event, something that occurred to me that nobody's negating the pain or the suffering involved, but what is it that I need to learn from this situation?
Mm-hmm.
How can I grow? How can this help me to grow? And if we can have in our awareness, just be able to have that there to ask those questions, it immediately changes everything for you.
Yeah.
So that's that side. And last thing, again, the bow part is the more evolved setting, which is where my work has been. Some of the great teachers out there is like, how can we get people to change before they hit rock bottom? Like, I don't want you to have to go through that, because most people really don't recover,
right?
Because they stay there. So what can we do to create a catalyst in your life for you to say yes and for you to make that decision for yourself?
Yeah.
And ultimately, it comes down to a really simple principle that's often not utilized. And I've had times in my life where I get off track in this, and then I have to bring myself back to it, which is why? Why? What is the reason that you're doing anything that you're doing in your life? What is the reason that you want to have a great relationship? What is the reason that you want to have this amazing career where you're impacting the lives of, millions of people? Is it because of the need to feel your ego? Or is it because you want to make your children proud? Is it because you want to help, kids in this specific community to have an example of what's possible and to help to end suffering? Or it can be, we're definitely seeing a climate right now with some very strange civil violence. Maybe your mission is to help to improve, and this is for me. I'm tying this in from my personal experience. I know that hurt people hurt people. How can I do my work in a way that uplifts humanity so that we can actually have more healthy, sovereign, happy people who are doing the work in the communities, civil servants, teachers, our fire department, our physicians, our police officers, our community itself, so that we're all relating to each other. We can see from a more open perspective. And I'll tell you, it's very difficult to do those things when you don't feel good. So finding a why, that's ultimately the big key. If you could just tune in, ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing this for? And be honest, really dig in there and make sure that it's not about just you and your little self. that can really help to be a catalyst for change.
That's so well said, Sean. It's so true. Do you think that, I mean, have you ever encountered working with people that really want all those things, but their actions are doing the complete opposite?
Of course, of course. I mean, I've seen that so many times, and I've seen this in close proximity. It's a part of my learning process as well. And it's something that I've learned over the years is to let people be who they are.
Yeah.
And also it's all about readiness as well. My job, real talk, nobody can make another person do anything.
Yeah.
You can physically force somebody to do something, maybe force them to do a job, even, force your kids to do stuff, but they're still free inside to think whatever they want. And all they need is an opportunity to get out of it. So what we want to do is create conditions where people can choose these things for themselves, if at all possible. So of course I would see, somebody's wanting to be successful, and also money is it's a big
Mm,
irritation for people.
yeah.
I've seen people come together in a positive thing to want to help other people, but then somebody might um, sell a bag of goji berries when somebody else wanted to sell the bag of goji berries to someone else, and they get into a fight, over something so stupid. It's just like we're here to help people, not like who's getting the credit for some goji
Right.
berries. And this is actually, I'm kind of paraphrasing a real example
I'm
something I've
like,
seen. Um, and it's like, what is it? What do you really want? What is it? What is this symptom of?
yeah.
And it's a sense of lack. It's a sense of lack and not enough. There's not enough to go around. And so, because of our survival needs, we call it an amygdala hijack. Like that part of your brain can kick in when you feel your survival needs are being threatened, and you can totally sabotage and mess up your perspectives of having a great relationship. With somebody who can help your career, or somebody who can help your relationship or your finances or your health. I've had people burn bridges with me when we're working with their health because of their survival needs kicking in, you know. And I know this again. I know it because I've done it, and the thing is quickly getting out. Like I lived in it for a couple of years, so I got very good at worrying about things that are not that important,
Mm,
because especially if you live in this country, in the Western world, period, most of your survival needs are good. Like it's a very small chance. Well, stuff can get tied to that very quickly. That there's still going to be a fear behind it. Like with the goji berry example, there's probably a fear tied. Like I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. I'm going to get kicked out in the street, and I'm going to be, I'm going to be homeless.
right.
Right? It's just like this crazy thing our brains are tied to, and ultimately it's a fear of death,
Yeah.
because that's really what it is when it boils down to it. Because what are you so afraid of? This person is probably not trying to hurt you. And even in a relationship context, one of the greatest tools if you were with your significant other and there's real love there, and you guys have, an argument about something, and asking, really, is this person with me or are they against me? Asking yourself honestly, is this person actually trying to hurt me? And the majority of time, it's a no. It's just a difference in opinion. It's a difference in perspective. But we get so caught up in our survival needs. And not to say, again, there, of course, are bad things. No, I'm sorry, not so good things,
Hmm.
negative things that people do and say to each other that are terrible. I grew up in that. I know what that looks like. And so, but most of the time, it's not that. Most of the time, people want to be happy.
Yeah.
But what their needs are to fulfill that can create some interference with each
Yeah,
other.
well, I've also seen so many people that are so committed to that state, the state of competitiveness or the state of sabotage, where they can do all the things and read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and go work with a coach and a teacher and do all the right things, the little, mark off all the check boxes that, I'm doing everything I need for my own self development and self transformation, but are still so committed to their story or their narrative or this idea of lack or still, that fear or of being relevant or the fear of death, right?
Yeah. Yeah. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about, I mean, the reality is it's always going to be, um, how to best put this? It's always going to be an individual case by case basis
Mm.
of what it is for the person.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I see consistently, one of the major things is, and this is, they're trying to think of the best way to say this as well. When people are doing that kind, all of that work, they're buying the courses, they're hiring
Mm-hmm.
coaches, they're listening to the empowering information, but they still find a way to self sabotage. And I don't really like getting on this word because it's become part of popular culture, but the ego
Mm-hmm.
is really an issue, and the reason that I don't like to say this word or talk about this right now is because it's sort of like with cortisol. Like cortisol has been made to be this terrible thing that's causing people to have an inability to lose weight. This is causing me to have so much stress. It's cortisol broke up with my boyfriend. It's all of this stuff that cortisol gets blamed for. But cortisol is actually really, really important.
Yeah.
It's just the balance. It's whether or not it's getting overproduced,
Mm.
underproduced, or produced at the wrong time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has its place and its value, immensely value. It's important for your thyroid to work. So with the ego, an ego is healthy. Like it can be. It's a healthy part of our beingness as a human, right? We have to have a perception, a reality of who we are and who we want to be in the world. This character that we want to be, and we can literally create that. The problem is most of the time it's getting created unconsciously as an influence from your environment. And so you never really choose who you want to be and how you want to see things.
Mm-hmm.
It's called this kind of cultural programming,
Mm.
right? So I just talked with this brilliant guy, his name is Dr. Mario Martinez, about how culture literally determines your health. It literally influences your genetics. Your culture does, the programming. And so, with that said, with the ego being something we can utilize and use, but we have to be aware of it. We have to be aware that we are not that. We are not just this thing, this entity that is kind of the perception that we see things through. What's the seer, right? What is actually seeing through the eyes of this ego that we've chosen?
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding that we are so much bigger than that. We're so much more vast and so much more valuable. And so we get caught up in the ego and what the ego does. And so in the context of what we're talking about, we're doing all this work, we're making connections, and then we self-sabotage. It's because the ego starts to do things like think that it's better than somebody. It starts to think that, you know what, I should be that person doing that thing, not this person. They're not as good as me. Or um, the ego says, I'm not getting the credit and the appreciation for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It starts getting caught up. We start getting caught up in self-sabotaging because we worry about little small stuff, these little stupid negative things. And we waste our energy on that instead of literally shifting that. And so I think that something that's helpful to get people over that is, and again, this is a thing that's become very popular today. I've been talking about for at least 10 years, but gratitude, being able to appreciate those things, especially when it's hard to.
Yeah.
That's something you probably don't hear people talking about, especially when it's hard, especially when, you feel like your business partner is taking you for granted. They're a good person. They love you. They've been helping you and to grow yourself. And you're like, your life is totally different and better than it used to be. But now, like you're the one with the big boy, big girl pants on. And you see them as a problem and a threat instead of just shift over and have that gratitude. Not saying that you guys even belong together, but that helps you to see the options and it helps you keep moving forward because that negativity, because that jealousy or envy or hatred, that energy, that energy literally drains you and it makes you make stupid decisions. So, there's some really basic tools, being aware of your ego, being aware of your desire to be right, and being aware of the ability to choose gratitude even when people seemingly do you wrong, and asking those empowering questions I talked about earlier. What is it that I need to learn from this situation?
Mm-hmm.
How is this here to help me to grow? And take that and keep moving forward instead of getting caught up in the trauma.
Mm, yeah, I agree. I think that it's such an important tool to be able to, I mean, to use to use it systematically in the way that you said, I think is definitely key to try and remove obstacles or get over hurdles or getting through times that are really tough. I like what you said about having gratitude even in the moments where it's like the worst, right? Because I think we've all experienced those moments where you're really just not having a good time and you start to then perpetuate into this stream of negativity, and you can have somebody in your environment try and get you out of it or be supportive and help you, but you're still so committed to that downward spiral. This is just kind of going back to what I'm saying when people are addicted to that realm of suffering. So for you, Shawn, what's your advice you give to people that are needing a little bit more of that perspective change to focus more on gratitude, and any way, or is there any tool in specific that you give them?
Um, you know, Clinically, again, it was really just a person by person
Yeah.
basis. You know, we all have our little things. We all have our barriers in our minds, especially when it comes to changing somebody's health, right? Changing
Mm-hmm.
somebody's body physically, because we have this residual self image.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, your number one driving force psychologically of your human psyche is to stay congruent with the ideas that you carry about yourself. So the ideas that you carry, everything in your life is set up. You unconsciously act in a way and think in a way that stays congruent with who you think you are. So the key is, first of all, awareness trumps everything. You have to first be aware of that. Like, oh yeah, the things I'm doing is because this is who I believe I am. This is what I believe I deserve. And so, kind of a tool to help to chip away with that, to be free of that, is to just analyze your thoughts about what you think you deserve and to be honest with yourself. Self honesty, oh my God,
Mm.
that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
It's one of the most difficult things. Being honest about who you are and who you've been,
Yeah.
and also what you want. I think it's one of the most difficult things to be honest about what you want.
Yeah.
Because we automatically go to what's possible. But what's possible is just based on your definition of who you are. Again, staying congruent with who you are. That's not the person that you want to be or what your potential is. So, being honest again about, I have this belief that, I'm unlovable,
Mm-hmm.
right? You actually look at that, nobody's really going to want to stay with me because of whatever blank thing. And to be honest about the belief and to be honest about, is this actually true? And if you have this idea that you're unlovable, I promise you it's not true. Unless you're Kanye West, maybe. I don't know. But um, even Kanye's got love.
Right.
Kanye needs love too, you know? And so it's just that idea. Of course, and there are like literally millions of people who love him,
Yeah.
but it's just giving that example. But really, when we break that down and we start to be honest with ourselves, because we'll prop that up. And why we'll use that is we're hoping to get some empathy, some empathy / sympathy love.
Yeah.
Because, oh, woe is me. And that's not healthy. That creates a vicious negative cycle. So that's what I would usually recommend people do, or work with them on. I help them to identify some of these disempowering beliefs and really do a logical assessment.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to analyze this, and we're just going to use this very scientific part of your brain and analyze if it's true or not. We could even run some tests and see, but the bottom line is just opening yourself up and being honest about who you believe yourself to be, who you've been historically, and who you want to be, right? And also being honest about what you want. Because in order for you to get to that other phase, or, to become the best version of yourself, you have to be honest about what that looks
Mm-hmm.
like for you, not for somebody else. but being honest about what that looks like. And from there, charting a course, because if this is who you want to be and your beliefs say, I'm unlovable or I'm lazy or whatever it might be that's going to inhibit you from getting to here, we have to look at that behavior and make a decision to input another behavior. Basically, take out that programming, put something else in.
Yeah. Oh, you're 100% right. I think that I mean I talk about this on the podcast. One of the reasons why I feel like we're so unhappy, even just in our society, is because we lack honest self-appraisal. There's a huge lack of honest self-appraisal, and I think that mostly it's because we don't like to do things that are uncomfortable, because we
Yeah.
don't want to move out of our comfort zone. Why do you think people make the same mistakes?
Oh my goodness. That's really simple, actually. Um, Again, this goes back to that statement that the number one driving force of the human psyche is to stay congruent with the ideas you carry of yourself. You're going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again because, again, that's who you believe yourself to be, the person who makes that mistake. And so, as the person is repeating this behavior, it's just like, why me? Why does this keep happening to me? We're further anchoring that behavior in because your brain, your reticular cortex, reticular activating system, are scanning your environment, scanning all the data that you've accumulated in your life to find out why you keep making the same mistake and bringing those things more to your consciousness of why you're such a screw up, right? Or why you deserve to have this happen, right? So again, it's shifting. It's literally as simple. And I'm thinking of right now a conversation I had with. He co-authored The One Thing,
Mm-hmm.
this mega hit book, The One Thing. His name's Jay Papasan. And there's basically this a centering question, right? This kind of the question that everything is based around in your life, and that at least in that phase or that part of your life. But we have to get back to asking these empowering questions or whatever that might be for you. So when the thing happens, instead of saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" asking, "What is it that I need to do to move beyond the situation? I've seen this happen before. What is this trying to teach me?" And the second part, here's the other part really that answers your question is, once you get that data, you have to be willing to actually make the
Mm-hmm.
change. So willingness is like a core ingredient. So we've got the empowering question, which most people are missing that in of itself, and we live in a perpetual disaster zone in our minds. So we get that empowering question and changing our frame of reference, but we have to be willing to make the change. And that willingness, one of the reasons we might have a reservation against that willingness is we think that it's going to be hard. And the thing is, it's probably equally as challenging as dealing with the garbage that you've been dealing with. So you got a choice. You can either put the energy into this change, you can put the energy into going through this drama again.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen either way. Time's going to pass either way. But you get to determine what this next time, this time span is going to look like for you based on your decision. So that willingness that it might be hard or difficult, which oftentimes is not as hard as we think. But the willingness to say yes to the new empowered way of being when it shows up. I think it's part and parcel to getting the results that we want in our lives.
Yeah, those are some really, really important probing questions that you are posing. I think that they're key to us beginning to find those ways where we can really begin to see substantial change in our lives. Um, how do you, in the work that you do with the people that you work with and all the knowledge and the education that you're putting out there in the world, how do you stay grounded?
uh, I I have a wife. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, I have a wife, and I love her more than anything. I'm obsessed with her. We've been together for 13 years, going on 14
Oh,
years
wow.
now. And we're actually coming up on our 10-year anniversary. But I'm obsessed with her. Like, I feel like I just met her. But it didn't used to be like this, again, like all of this. And there's an episode of my show, actually, where she's actually on the show, and we talk about these keys to having a
Yeah.
relationship that's really worthy of you. But I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, she's my greatest supporter and greatest cheerleader. Like she's the one like celebrating, going
Yeah.
nuts. Like if like let me think of something that happened recently. Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you know about Dave Ramsey, but he's like the money
Oh,
guy, right? I think
yes.
he's like like all these different
Yeah,
books and all
yeah.
this kind of stuff. And so their camp reached out about I guess he read the book or something. My book,
Yeah.
but basically just to connect, to support, to introduce me to their audience. And she's just like she flips out about that kind of stuff. Like, you see, you're the best, and she's so positive. But then today, I'm in Missouri,
Uh-huh.
right? We live in Wildwood, Missouri. It's like basically close to St. Louis, and it's been raining like for 3 days straight. Just rain. Like we don't really usually see this, and so there's all these roads that are closed. Like there's even a highway, like a major highway, like 10-lane highway closed because of water rising up on the highway. And so people are taking the back way, which is right by our house. Like we're kind of like tucked off in a little nook here, but to get to where we need to go, there's like a little main 2-lane street, and people are going from the highway to there. Like all of the highway traffic's coming through. So I was taking my little son, my youngest son, who's 5 years old, to school this morning, and a trip that would normally take 15 minutes took 50 minutes. And so I finally get back home, and I'm just like, I'm ready to eat. Probably a little bit hangry.
Yeah.
You know, and my plan for the morning was a little bit off. And I'm just like, what? I was kind of like, why isn't the food ready? But I asked her before I got there, before if she can make me something. And I make her stuff too. I actually make her stuff every day. So it's not like get in there and cook that for me, a woman. It's not that. I'm not like that. But I was like, why is this stuff ready? I got to get going such and such. And she's like, and I was like, I was in this traffic or whatever, can, just be understanding. She was like, but did you die? Right. And so she just immediately checks my ego because, but did you die? Response. And I actually I didn't post that on Instagram, but I posted a, did you die? Meme today because of her. People won't know that I didn't post that with it.
Oh,
But
that's the one with
so
the guy from The
she keeps me
Hangover,
grounded.
right? The Mr. Chow. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. When people are complaining they're sore all the time, but did you die? So yeah, that's what keeps me grounded. That and just I think it's through a process and a practice over the years of really understanding my value, which takes a lot of work. I mean, it really takes a lot of work unless you're like kind of indoctrinated with this as you
Yeah.
grow, which I really encourage parents to do to really help to imbue that sense of value into their children, which I didn't have to a large degree. But again, I had it early on and it stayed with me. But understanding my value and understanding this perspective, which is there recently, they got um, the photos back from light years out, the telescope. I don't know if it's the Hubble or which one it was, but they finally get the images back, and they found like there's like 100 billion more galaxies. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? We are infinitely unimportant, but at the same time, we are infinitely important to the whole thing. Like we are part of this. We don't go anywhere, even when our physical bodies are gone. Like it turns into something else that stays here forever. Like it's so powerful and understanding like we are so infinitely unimportant, but at the same time we can be the most important person in the universe for somebody,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
For my 5-year-old son, I'm the most important person in his life. That's how important I am. I am the greatest thing in the universe to him,
Mm.
you know? So that's how powerful we are, but it's balanced. And I just really, one day I was actually meditating, and it just hit me, just like, I'm so unimportant, which is such a gift. It's kind of freeing,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I have so much value, and it's my opportunity here to express that.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what it is for me, and that kept me grounded. It's having this balanced perspective.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that very personal story. I loved that. This is one of my favorite questions to ask my guests, and lately it's mostly because of perspective and just to kind of see where we are in our own path and our wisdom spectrum. So, as you are right now, Shawn, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
My 15 or 16?
15, 1 5.
1-5. Okay. Uh, See, with a question like this, um, it's tough because it's sort of like, I don't know if you watch any of these superhero
Of course
movies,
I
but
do.
like, I or the TV shows, but like The Flash, right? I had to stop watching that show. We were kind of like, we were really digging it, but he kept screwing up the
Yeah.
timeline, right? He keeps creating all these different realities because he went back and changed something. So for me, it would be tough because I would not want to change a single thing about where I am today. And life is not perfect, but I appreciate my life, and I appreciate who I've become. So I wouldn't change anything. I would just say, if anything, um, I wouldn't want to be the person to say it, but actually something did happen. It's just so crazy. And I don't know if I don't think I've ever shared this before. I said it to my wife because I remember when we were out in this neck of the woods, but it was shortly thereafter. It was my first year of college. I was 17 years old, slash 18, just turning, excuse me, 18, and I was working at this. I was working at a hotel, like a front desk,
Hmm.
whatever. Which was a big responsibility. It's like, I can't believe the guy gave me this job, because basically I was the manager of this front desk. It's like a legit little hotel,
Yeah.
And I remember that this couple checked in, and I've seen all kinds of people, had all kinds of conversations, and just serving people, helping people to get a sense of comfort in their place and in the space. And this woman, it's just so weird that I thought about this yesterday, and I only thought about it one other time, and I told my wife because she was with me, but she looked at me, and she told me that she doesn't know what it is, and she's never said anything like this to anybody before, but she feels compelled to tell me that I'm going to do something very special in this life. I'm going to do something very remarkable. And at the time, of course, I'm like, this crazy lady. But also at the same time, there was something in me that felt like she knows. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I am. I am. I'm just like, I'm in transition right now. Like, this is part of my story. And so I would have that lady, not me, go back and tell my 15-year-old self that I'm going to do something really special in life and to just keep moving forward.
Mm, that's really good. Okay, here's the next one. What would your 60-year-old self tell you now?
60-year-old.
60-year-old Shawn.
Okay,
Yep.
so 60 years old. I just interviewed Morris Chestnut, who's like this Hollywood celebrity. He's been in all these iconic movies, and we were just hanging out, and it's for their book launch. I was actually there with him, and first of all, like, he's about to be 50, right? And people see him and how shredded he is, just healthy, and just such a on point, smart, sharp person. Like, 60 is, like, in my opinion, that's like the new 30.
Yeah.
All right. So that 60-year-old me would probably tell me um, to keep thinking bigger,
Mm,
to think bigger than you ever have before. I think that that's something that we all run into, but me specifically because of just all the things that I've been through, and I really had to overcome a lot of things to get to this place and to really probably work harder and smarter than most people who would be in a similar position right now. But I just feel that it's because it's just a greater blessing to be able to connect with people and to share the experience. Because I can relate to people on so many different levels, and people can kind of pick that up from me. Even in my voice and hearing from me, I feel in my heart, and so that's something that I like to even write in my journal if I can remember, like just something I want to make like a mantra for me is, to think bigger than I ever have, because we limit ourselves so much and there's so many amazing things that are already taking place in this world, but there are also so many amazing things that have not been done, said, created yet. And I want to be a part of that. And so that's what I think that I would tell myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. I always love hearing that because it's always across the board pretty much the same type of advice, and I always just find it so beautiful to give ourselves that advice without, of course, folding into the space-time continuum, right? We don't want to start
Right.
like messing with anything.
Exactly.
Okay, so the final question, Shawn, is I created Radically Loved as a forum to provide information or tools for living in regard to all types of different modalities, be it yoga, meditation, health, fitness, your career, pretty much across the board. It's this idea that we are all connected and we are all radically loved by God, universe, source, whatever higher power of your understanding, that we are supported and the universe is conspiring for us, not against us. So the final questions to you are, what do you radically love and how do you feel radically loved?
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'll just share, I guess, what came up for me. The first thing that came into my mind was, and it's kind of scary to even say this, but other people would think that this is normal, but my kids, um, definitely because, and why it would be it's scary because just working on myself and I have this higher perspective, like our suffering really comes from attachment, and our greatest attachment tends to be to our children. And we have to understand that they're their own sovereign spirits and their own sovereign entities, that they're going to choose and do the things that they're wanting to do with their own lives. But for me, it's because I think that it's more of a conscious attachment. Like I've made the decision, like I know you're going to hurt me, but I'm going to still love you and love you 100%, no matter what. It doesn't mean I'm going to, um, you know, allow you or agree with everything that you do or even, support you in poor decisions, let you fall and figure things out. But I will never stop loving you. And, and I think the thing is, like, when I say that with conscious attachment, it's really, I think it's so valuable because it really allows you to feel, because as you work on yourself and you get, chasing this enlightenment, you can become very unattached and not be able to really feel intimately, happiness, suffering, whatever the case might be, or you're chasing something else. So that attachment really is another thing that keeps me grounded. So for me, I radically love my children. How do I feel radically loved? I was given my grandmother. That's what comes up for me. I think I really hit the lottery in being born, and having that opportunity to be with her. And, she showed me, she gave me this tool that is what other people are experiencing today who know me or who are impacted by my being. She gave me this experience of what unconditional love is. You know, she really made me feel like I was seen. She made me feel like I mattered. And that stayed with me through all of the suffering and the pain and the fighting and the tough times that I was in. It was always there. So that's what I would say is that's how I know I'm radically loved is I was giving her.
Shawn, thank you so much. That was so beautiful and heartfelt. I'm just like sitting here like, oh, wow. I think that's probably one of my most favorite answers I've heard to date. So thank you for that. For people listening at the moment, where can they find you? Where can they go for more information? Where can they connect with you?
Sure. So people can find me wherever they're listening to your podcast. They can find my show as well. It's called The Model Health Show. So that's The Model Health Show. And very, very honored to say, it's been featured as the number one health show in the U.S. many, many times, and also other countries as well. It's just an incredible community of people. And it's just it's my greatest passion as far as my work. I'm very, very, very passionate about creating these master classes, and we get into every subject matter really related to health and well-being. So we might do a master class on anything ranging from, reversing type 2 diabetes to general, reversing, body fat, obesity, heart disease, all these kind of chronic illnesses, but also bringing on, and about 50% of my shows are pure content for me in these master classes, but also bringing on the best people in the world in their field. So I just talked with Dr. John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, to talk about relationships, and to how to have a healthy relationship with yourself and your significant other as well. So people can check that out. I'm sure that if they just click play on one show, they'll be a part of our family. So that's really where people can find out more information about me and what we're doing. And also online is themodelhealthshow.com. And all my social media and stuff is there. And we got videos of the episodes. You can hang out in the studio with us. And we, of course, have a good time, too. So that's it. That would be where people can connect with me.
That's so great. And we'll definitely link all of those links on the show notes so people that are listening to this can just click on the show notes and go straight to those links. And if you're not subscribed to the Model Health Show yet, please do so. It's filled with so much incredible information and knowledge and insight, and I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface with you on this. I mean, it's just time is so limited, and I can totally talk to you for hours on end just asking you more questions about all of these different subjects. But Shawn, I want to thank you so much for being a part of now the Radically Loved community and for everything that you're doing in the world. You truly are making and creating remarkable things. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much.
Thanks for being on the show, Shawn. Please come and be on again. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am so excited to continue to do this. Please share this with your friends. Email us, message us on Instagram at Rosie Acosta or on Twitter at Rosie Acosta. Subscribe on iTunes, write a review. We love doing this, so please help us continue to keep this podcast going. Thanks for listening.